Brought to you by Penguin.
Here's the story, a memoir written and read by Mary McAleese. This book is dedicated to the memory of the late Father Alec Reid, CSSR, priest and peacemaker. Chapter 1. People have notions about the place where I was born and raised, Ardoyne, North Belfast. During the Troubles, Ardoyne was rebranded in the mass media as the Ardoyne. It became the area with the highest per capita incidence of sectarian murders, and gained a reputation as a place apart. Ardoyne was not a place apart. It was, and still is, the canary in the mine. Looking back, I can see it for what it was, a dangerously overlooked corner of the United Kingdom where the lives of many decent people of all persuasions fell or were shoved into the crevices of a turbulent history they did not create. Ardoyne is sometimes characterised as a Catholic ghetto, but that is to mistake part of it for all of it. My family was Catholic, but for as long as we lived in Ardoyne, we lived among predominantly Protestant neighbours, who belonged to a kaleidoscope of different churches and gospel halls. Growing up there in the 1950s and 60s, I learnt from first principles that by failing to build bridges to our estranged neighbours, we lived with a dangerously and deliberately restricted view of life. In a divided society, the contest for hearts and minds begins with the recruitment of its children to intolerance of others. I was raised as a Catholic whose identity was Irish, not British. I grew up among Protestant neighbours whose identity was mostly British, not Irish. I hoped the island of Ireland would one day be reunited. My neighbours could not imagine anything worse. They were loyal to the Crown and the United Kingdom. So there were those who were loyal and those who were disloyal, those who could be trusted and those who could not. Little or nothing matched between us, or so it seemed. If we managed to live and work together, it was often because we obeyed the mantra captured by Seamus Heaney: whatever you say nothing. We dug our respective trenches deeper and deeper, handing on to the next generation batons of fear, contempt, hatred, self-righteousness, and entitlement with which to beat to death any hope of a peaceful and egalitarian future. And yet for many years of my childhood it was not uncommon for most of us to find ways of navigating the problems presented by our differences of religion and politics, so that we became good neighbours and lifelong friends. My closest early childhood friends were all Protestant. The family we shared a rented holiday home with year after year was Protestant, our next-door neighbours, in fact. There was no unease in our relationships, no nervousness around our differences. My parents were not Belfast natives. My mother's roots were in rural County Down, and my father's in County Roscommon. Not just different counties, but different jurisdictions. My father had to secure a work permit to migrate north, and for many years he needed a pass for his car, known as a triptych, when he crossed the border to visit his parents. My parents' relative unfamiliarity with urban Belfast was probably an important factor in our good relations with our Protestant neighbours, for the cultural and experiential wells that we drew from as children were a bit wider and deeper than Northern Ireland's standard sectarian bunkers. The principles of tolerance inculcated by our parents seemed to provide an effective resistance to the tendency to see things exclusively from one perspective. None of us, and I was the eldest of 9 siblings, ever embraced or even countenanced paramilitarism, though we suffered its consequences. We all became convinced pacifists, and we all maintained strong cross-community friendships from childhood through to adulthood, even in circumstances.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?